I'm a sucker for classic literature.
I know it. I think we both are.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, we're sort of surrounded by it.
We're sort of nerds.
That's almost the entirety of our old book collection.
Yeah. Oh, man. Got to go through that and read all of that. Anyway, we got a cool one this week.
Yeah, we do.
Based on classic literature.
Yes, it is.
It is a reimagination of a very old, very classic tale of swords and heroes and monsters and
some sorcery,
magic. Oh my!
Yeah, it's a clever one.
Yes,
and I know we talk about it in the episode, but I can't stress that enough. There have been so many reimaginings, reinterpretations of things, and they usually suck.
Well, a lot of the time, yeah.
Well, they're doing just too many. I don't know. It's like trying for the Oscar kind of change, right? This one is a super simple change,
and it's fun.
The movie's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, but the change and the interpretation is perfect. It doesn't get in the way of anything. Yeah, it's just wonderful. This was awesome. It's the only way to put it. Yeah. I loved watching this.
Oh man, and it's like pretty quotable too.
Yes, it is.
We've been quoting each other.
Yes.
Oh man.
And I just want to say, I would have pulled some stuff, some audio.
Yeah, you've been busy.
Well, yeah, that and the fact that we got it as a screener,
right?
And everything on Vimeo is just so bad. I mean, it's jittery. It's we've talked about that. We can't fault, and we've seen afterwards some things that have gone on. Right.
Oh yeah, and they're great. It's not the fault of the film. It's the fault of Vimeo.
Yeah. And yeah, the sound was just, I just didn't want to mess with it because you don't know what you're going to get.
Sure.
Anyway, so other than that, yeah, awesome, and it's out mainstream.
Yeah, it's on Tubi now, so go watch it.
Yeah.
You'll figure. Well, it's the episode title, but you'll figure out what it is.
Yeah. Go find it, and I double checked. It's there.
Sweet.
Yeah, and it looked better. I just did the trailer thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad this came our way. Do you want to talk about it?
I do. Let's get into this.
Boom.
Hey B-Siders, welcome to another episode of Bravo for the B-Side. This is Jim.
And this is Danny.
And we have a really fun movie this week.
Yeah.
This one came to us as a screener.
Indeed.
But I will announce that I did get a message that it is on Tubi.
Exciting.
Yeah. So, guess you don't have to wait,
right,
to see when it's going to come out. It's on Tubi. It's got some just other like DVD distribution and stuff that was lined up, but we got to see it early, and we're talking about it.
Woohoo!
But before we get into the fun, once again, for our nth episode in a row, we have to talk about somebody we lost.
Yeah.
So a couple days before this recording, we lost Meatloaf.
We did.
Which, sometimes it seems, I don't know, some people think it's kind of silly. Some people get it. It's kind of a hard hit. I mean, I grew up with that sound. Right?
He had a very unique sound to him. And he also had a wide vocal range.
He did. And the Bat Out of Hell album, I mean, that was auditory Bible growing up. I mean, I was just a kid when that came out. Listen to that thing. If there was ever a risk of running through vinyl, wearing it out and carving it away, Oh man, I listened to that thing over and over and over, front to back. You know, obviously, like most people, picked out like just kept lifting the needle at the end of Bad Out of Hell,
Oh yeah,
replaying it. But
absolutely.
Paradise by the Dashboard Light, um, 2 out of 3. Oh man,
And who could forget his memorable performance as Eddie in Rocky Horror Picture Show?
right? I mean, yeah, I mean this is a guy who was in the core moments of my myself forming myself,
I get
right?
it.
These were the formative years.
Yeah.
This was pre-middle school, it was elementary school stuff, and these are the things that surrounded me, and he was just one of many musical influences that shaped my taste. You know, just crazy, crazy. Yeah. So
Shame.
there won't be any tours. I do regret not having been able to see him on tour. You know,
Yeah.
but when you're a kid, you don't get to see much of anything, right?
Well,
You
that's
know,
true. I mean, you don't, and you especially don't get to see things that are, you don't necessarily get to see things that are specifically tailored to your tastes. It's always sort of, what your parent or your auntie or your grandma
if they'll
brings you to.
if they'll drag you to it,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I fawned over wanting to see Kiss in concert, Grateful Dead in concert, the Police when I got into middle school in concert. So many concerts I didn't make.
I was
You
brought
know,
to a few. I mean, as a kid, I was lucky enough to have adults who like wanted to share concerts and stuff with me. The unfortunate thing though was it was sort of wasted on me because it was a lot of country music concerts and things like that,
right?
which even as a kid, I was like, take it or leave it, you know?
Well, I was fortunate. What kind of made up for all of that was I was lucky in that I had a parent who couldn't have given a shit one way or another about anything. So when I asked, hey, my friend, his older brother is going out to California in a van, and they're going to go to the Grateful Dead concert, and they're going to follow them on their tour all the way across the country to Martha's Vineyard. Can I go? Nope. So at 13, me and my friend were with his older brother who was 19. And yeah, we basically lived in a van all summer following this. And I got to tell you, um, yeah, some advances were made in that whole formative year thing. I mean, I'm not going to get into it here, but I saw stuff, a lot of stuff
I bet you
in
did.
in those months. Oh man, it was.
As a Deadhead groupie, I'm sure you did.
Oh yes, and the movies don't even come close when they try to depict what has gone on. But I will say, you talk about a tight knit community. Nobody ever went hungry. Nobody. I mean, everyone was like sharing stuff, and there was. I mean, it was like hot dogs and
Yeah, but
the
still.
which for me was like, all right, I'm good. Um, but yeah, it was pretty cool. A lot of moments where some people needed things, other people came in, and you saw. I didn't know there was going to be so many people doing it, but we saw the same like 30, 40 people all along the way. Not to mention all the other folks who showed up for the concerts and stuff.
Right.
So I can't complain too much. Um, yeah, that was all right. But I still wish I would have, been able to see
Oh, yeah.
Kiss in their unbridled virgin tour where they just like didn't fucking hold back anything. They didn't get notes on their
Right.
performance. They're just like, "Rah, we're here," But anyway, so Meatloaf left us, and another name from the past just a day later.
Yeah.
Louis Anderson Um, and
It's just Louis Anderson. Every time I hear his name, it conjures up his face in so many different roles
right,
that I saw him in.
and Louis was funny. I
Yes.
mean, in the weirdest ways too. You never saw it coming with
Yeah.
him.
I I would agree with that. I'm trying not to laugh too much because
Oh yeah.
my face hurts.
Okay, we'll stop
So
that. My
if I seem more sedate than usual.
well, I will carry the brunt of the talking because Danny has had a procedure and is all sore in recovery.
I had a wisdom tooth removed.
Yeah,
It was ouchy.
yeah, and it's only been 2 days.
Yes.
So anyway,
Anyway,
I think that's it. I don't
I
know
think
what's
so.
going on. All right. Well, let's get talking about this movie that again came as a screener. And I'm going to admit, I when this gentleman reached out, said this is the thing I made, I was not sure what to expect.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, because we were talking about, coincidentally, last few episodes, we've mentioned things about mixing things up, changing things around, and what works and what doesn't. Like we talk about why Ghostbusters. Why make a remake a movie, replace everybody with women? How about just make a movie with women on their own, their own talents, their own names, their own skills, instead of trying to equalize things by just remaking movies. I think women deserve way better than that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I agree.
and it's the same with the diversity. Okay, let's quit redoing things and then add different colors and nationalities to the cast just because it's painfully obvious. It's very trope. It actually, to me, works in reverse.
Well, we watched James Bond, No Time to Die.
Right.
And afterwards we were discussing how how much fun and how clever it was for them to introduce potentially a new 007
Yes.
who is not James Bond,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And how much fun that was and how great she was. Although I will still say that I can't remember the name of the character, but that Cuban girl, she stole the whole movie for me.
There's a thing about that I just read.
Is there?
Yeah. Some people are suing Universal Studios because there's a trailer. I can't remember the name of the movie. I just saw this all in. My mind is just all over with studies and stuff. I can't remember shit anymore. Um, but anyway, they rented a movie on the premise that she was in the trailer for it. She's got a huge fan base out there.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's hilarious. Yeah. So anyway, in the final cut of the movie that was released, she's not in it
How
at all,
horrible.
at all. But she's in the trailer, so they're trying to nail him, big time for false advertising, deception, just all this stuff. Um, which I'm kind of on their side.
Hmm.
If you're gonna make a trailer for your movie before the final cut, I understand marketing and shit. But here's the deal: what you've cut, recut the trailer.
Yeah.
And if it's a budget issue, well, then you shouldn't be cutting trailers that early.
That's fair.
I mean, this is like studios.
You've got a rough cut before you do a trailer, you know?
Yeah. And nobody gives a shit about what movie's coming out 6 months ahead of time. Just 30 fucking days ahead of time. Let us know. It's all we need. It's all we've ever needed.
That's true.
You don't build up hype. You build up frustration, you know? But anyway,
we've gone on for far too long.
Well, no, I was just going to say that, yeah, with the James Bond is dead, but 007,
right,
which is a portable title that can be double O's, they're handed out to, when one dies, someone else comes in
right,
as a 00. I would love to see her in it. I would love to see the continuation of Ian Fleming's 00 world, the MI6.
Oh yeah.
Stuff. but with her. Because, yeah, she was very little screen time. But we talked, both of us were like, oh, eyes on her the whole time she was on screen.
Oh,
There was
she's
just
great.
something that sold it. So, and that's how you do it. You don't call her Jane Bond,
No.
and you don't remake all the Bond films with her in the lead role. I think
Give
she
her her own
deserves
story.
I think she deserves her own original work.
Yeah.
Anyway, with that,
Do you want me
why
to
don't
tell you
you tell
about this
us
movie?
about this movie?
Yeah. This movie is called Beowulf. That might sound familiar to you. But it's Beowulf. BAE space wolf.
Another quick, I've made this comment before. It made my heart sputter when this was sent to me. But if there's a word I hate most in the English language, that's it. Bay.
Oh, darling.
Oh, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Just say, continue.
This movie was released this year in 2022. It was directed by David Axe, written by David Axe, story by Darian Kavanagh, starring, and it was a little tough for this because I actually had to go into IMDb and like pull the lead roles because they're actually in alphabetical order.
Right.
But starring Morgan Shaylee Renew, Josh Kern, and Jennifer Hill. Not rated. According to IMDb, and we could confirm this with David if we talk to him, the budget was $37,000. And then here's the logline. In the year 500 AD, a jealous, decapitating monster terrorizes the drunken revelers of Heorot. A fearless princess goes in search of a hero who can save her people, but that hero guards a secret more dangerous than any monster.
So we start with an old guy sitting in a pub full of Danes. Some young guy comes up and asks him if he's the Shaper. And then goes on about Beowulf, Grendel, the whole 9 yards. And then he asks this old fellow how much of it's true. And the old man asks, how much mead can you afford? Which I like that answer. So later, that young guy stumbles out of this pub and ends up standing next to a building. He like stumbles away from it towards the camera.
Well, it's not that young guy. There's a super 30 years earlier and far away.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So this young guy stumbles out towards the camera, past the big fire in the middle of the village, ends up leaning against a post on a building. And as this is happening, what you see, and I want to say, I make this known. So this was a screener. It was on Vimeo, which we've never had good luck with Vimeo in terms of picture quality. There was a lot of jittering.
Yeah.
And stuff. I suspect if we watch it again on Tubi, it's going to be way more clear.
Probably.
But what you see in the background from my eyes was a guy wearing like fur shorts, and that's it. Right?
Right.
Just kind of like breezes in way in the far background and kills 2 guards by the pub. And he takes one of their heads, and the drunk dude sees nothing. And then shorts guy goes in the building, and one by one, people start to stumble out, clutching their guts, their chests, each of them dying in turn.
Yes.
And this drunk guy has no clue. And then shorts guy comes out, and he walks away. And he comes towards the camera, and he just like does that prickus, bam, shoulders.
Yeah, he does a shoulder check.
Yeah, as he passes the drunk dude. Who then turns around, sees what's going on. He's like, what the hell? So the next morning, bodies are being tossed into a cart. The guard at the cart looks bored as hell. So there's one guy like actually doing the work, and this other guy is literally just twiddling with his sword. Drunk guy is laying down in like a small like platform stand. The queen comes up and yells at him. We learn his name is Umfert. And we learn that it was Grendel that came in and killed everyone. And then tells him to go apologize to the princess.
You were that his name is Unfert?
Umfert.
It's Unferth.
Oh, I heard Umfert.
Oh.
You looked it up.
I did look it up.
Okay. Tell me it didn't sound like Umfert.
No, it didn't.
It sounded like Umfert.
You're Umfert.
Well, I'm going to keep calling him Umfert.
Why?
Huh? Because you can blame Vimeo.
That's the wrong name.
It's missing one H. Anyway. So the princess is digging a hole to bury the bodies. The village bard is saying he doesn't even know how to write all of this down, what's happened. And he's a shaper. So shapers are the bards.
Yes.
Later, she passes Umferth.
Unferth. Nope.
Okay, I'm only going to meet you halfway. Who is carrying a body. He's upset that he didn't stop Grendel. And this was awesome. There's this big conversation here. And the princess pretty much says that he's useless and a coward and he couldn't have done anything anyway. He's a nice guy, but he's utterly useless in that regard.
Yes.
And I thought, wow, talk about verbal castration. That was sweet.
In their conversation, one thing that is brought up is that the Princess Freya says that you need a monster to fight a monster. And part of her verbal castration of him is that he's just too, nice and boring and
well, I mean, she says a lot of things, and as it unfolds, it becomes more clear. I mean, he's basically just like an unemployed, lazy drunk in the town who has big aspirations, but absolutely no way to fulfill them.
So while she walks on, she sort of senses someone nearby and goes on the defensive. And she believes that it's a monster. So she tells the monster to go its way and she'll go hers. And then she kind of runs off. And as it turns out, it is a monster. It's a blue monster of some kind. And it walks off to find Grendel. So it knows Grendel. And starts asking Grendel what his whole plan is with this village. And it turns out this monster is Grendel's mom.
Yeah.
And Grendel doesn't seem to really have a plan. And Mom's sort of disappointed about that. So then we see Unferth. He is destroying ale barrels. Or trying to, at least. It takes him quite a while.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, he does the one.
Yes.
And that was, it was hilarious. The fucking end of the axe flies off as he's trying to chop it up. He's just terrible. This is his, gesture.
Yeah, it's his penance because he got drunk.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen again.
So he's going to get rid of all the ale.
Yeah. Maybe not the best idea, but we'll see how that goes. And then he ends up burying another ale barrel. And then he's with the guards outside the longhouse. They're ready if Grendel returns. Inside, the queen is giving a speech about the people who died. And we were talking about the way in which the story is told.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, we all kind of know the story of Beowulf.
Right.
Right. And it's always sort of this very epic, long-winded kind of thing. I will say Beowulf is a very long-winded story.
It is.
But the speech that the people in this movie, what am I trying to say? The speech style is more modern day.
Oh,
right?
the way they speak. their
Yes.
dialogue.
Yes.
Yeah, this is not a period dialogue.
No.
This is as if you were to just walk outside and start talking to folks.
Which I think is a lot of fun.
Oh, I was fucking digging it. Are you shitting me? Oh, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Don't need to get fancy. I was in as soon as it started.
Yeah. So she's giving this like very funny speech about the people who died. And then the people ask her about the monster. And she initially is like, well, how about we drink about it? And then learns that the ale is gone. And then she's like, okay, well, then how about we go hunt the monster? This will keep everyone happy.
Well, she offers to go on a night hunt.
Night hunt.
To go kill something. So they're all like, night hunt, night hunt, night
right.
hunt, night hunt.
Freya doesn't want to join the hunt. So she tells the Shaper, who I have at this point figured out is the Shaper of Herod from the beginning. Right? He's telling this story.
Right.
She tells the Shaper that they need help, but her mom isn't going to ask for it. So she's going to go on a quest to find some help. And the Shaper's like, well, I don't have anything better to do. I will go with you. And accompanies her.
It's funny because in all of this, Unferth catches a guard sleeping. And he like wakes him up. And I love this. He's like, you don't want to end up like Jeff, do you? And that's the thing. The core people have the names.
Yes.
Of the tale. Everybody else later on, there's like Carl. I don't think I wrote it down, but it's like, what? Oh, did you see what happened to Carl? Some shit. So yeah, he leaves and the guard falls asleep and falls off the tower.
Yes.
Right. So we get daylight. Or no, first,
Grendel returns.
Yeah. Grendel strolls into town. And this was so weird. A dog follows him in. Off camera.
Yes.
And then he ends up like stopping and petting it and everything. Now, I'm going to assume it had something to do with the story. But you had pointed out the leash.
Oh, yeah.
Like he was.
The collar.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it was part of it. Maybe they made it part of it because the dog just kept going. I don't know.
Grendel gives it some pets.
He does. It was pretty awesome.
It's not a very effective guard dog. But...
And then we get some cut shots of him going into buildings. One, he comes out wearing a boa and a hat. And then he's in another one eating and drinking on his own. And then he has an imaginary conversation with himself. He's just living it up in this empty village.
Well, yeah, because he initially goes into the longhouse to do some killing, and he finds it empty. So he's like, oh, all right.
So then we're with Freya, the princess, and Shaper, and they're walking through the woods. They hear some growling. And then a horse. And a woman riding it comes up with some folks trailing her posse.
Yeah.
She takes out a sword and comes at the princess and Shaper. And they just kind of like stand there. And I thought, for a warrior princess, you're pretty forgiving on the whole distance thing. So anyway, this woman ends up running past the both of them and leaps into, I thought it was a pile.
It's like a pile.
Well, it's like behind a mound.
Right.
Kind of thing. Yeah. And apparently she's killing an imp.
Well, yeah, one of her troop is like, you saw the imp, right? Did you see the imp?
So Shaper is starting to jot things down. And all of a sudden, the woman emerges from behind the mound with a severed head. And then she introduces herself as Beowulf. And then they head back to town. There
is a bit of flirting between Beowulf and Freya.
There is. It's a little... Not much. There's more later.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the Beowulf dudes is getting high. Beowulf and Freya are talking about monsters. And Shaper... and what did I write? I think I was in the middle of two thoughts. Talk about monsters, and they end up talking about Shaper a little bit too. Oh yeah, because Beowulf says every Shaper that has ever written about her has made her a man.
Yes.
In the stories. Pause. Score.
Yeah.
I love this. That simple little sentence does way more justice to swapping sexes and roles than just doing Beowulf as a woman in the lead.
Sure.
And just leaving it as that, right? I love this because it did two things. One, I think it did an excellent job on equalizing the, let's do this with a different perspective kind of thing. And two, it did a couple of more things, but primarily number two, it really does show how a role can be converted to a man to cover up a woman doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So think of every great thing in history, it's all men, 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 men.
I mean, it happened to Elise Guy.
Well, that was the other thing. That actually it touched a chord when she said that, because it did make me immediately think of Elise Guy, that she was done, written out. Everything she ever did was credited to a man for the longest time. So, yeah, huge scores on that front. Anyway, let's see. So, yeah, she's portrayed as a man in their stories. Now, I want to talk about these imps, because there's a lot of conversation about these imps. Imps are like the thing.
Yeah, Beowulf is very on about imps.
On about imps, and everybody's like, yeah, imps are, man, it's really, they're all about this time of year. It's really more than usual. And even her posse is like pushing the imp thing. And then they keep talking about how molesty the imps are.
Right.
You don't want to go out there. There's a lot of imps and they're molesty this time of year. It's mating season. I've never heard anything like this in my entire life. I was like, this is awesome. So Freya tells Beowulf about Grendel, who then says she'll take care of the situation.
Right. Even though she is a bit surprised that Grendel doesn't molest people.
Right.
She's like, really? He just beheads? No molesting?
Mm-hmm. There we go.
So, Beowulf tells her group about the job, and immediately the conversation that they have, so it's her little troop. The conversation seems to circle around scams that other groups run. So they're convinced that Grendel is not a real thing. Right?
Yeah. It's just a bunch of posers. Right. Like, yeah, well, we just saw him rip the fucking heads off of people. That's not a poser. But anyway.
So they're essentially discussing how to, figure out what the scam is and, do away with it.
Yeah.
And Shaper comes by as they're having this discussion. And what's funny is it seems like they kind of want to hide the discussion that they've just been having, but they're not really doing a good job of it. And Shaper's like, what a coincidence that we found you guys so quickly. And they're like, yep, super big coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
So back in Herod, the return of Freya and the monster hunting group is causing a stir. Beowulf starts listing her accomplishments. Like she marches right up to the queen, is like, I'm Beowulf, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Goes on with this big list of titles, the hero titles, and then starts to negotiate a deal for their services. Obviously, they're not going to do this for free.
Right.
Right? She then tells two of her group to go out and find the Grendel. They're going to do some reconnaissance. And then immediately after she sends them off, the village is so happy that they're there that they're like throwing a party.
Mm-hmm.
And then the queen and Beowulf have a little dance off during the celebration.
Yes.
Which is pretty fun.
The queen, yeah, she just like comes on camera, statues for a second, and then just busts into it.
Oh yeah.
And it was so much fun. These 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 actors did a great job all around with their
Absolutely.
everything, and a lot of this, I mean, it's meant to be. Jeff even said, it's a goofy film. They're
Yes. It is
lampooning a
goofy.
lot of stuff, and they do it really well.
They do. And one of the things that I enjoyed while watching this film is that it's clear that like there was a lot of fun had while making it,
Oh yeah,
you know. So the Beowulf's crew find Grendel in the forest and he's just like chilling, fishing. Um and they start telling him about all the imps that they hunted and he was like, I'm an actual monster. I know that imps aren't real. And they're like, yeah, that's true. Let's make a deal. If you come in and we do, they go through this whole like scam that they're going to do to make
right.
it seem like they've defeated Grendel and then they're going to share the loot with him.
Here's my thing with that I did note. All they need is a head or an arm,
Right.
and they'll cut him in.
Yep.
A head or an arm. I guess they might find someone stupid enough to say, "Oh, we'll take him my head," and that'll convince them.
Right.
I don't know, but anyway, yeah, they're telling this dude, hey man, we get your whole monster game and stuff, and we won't say anything, but if we can just like produce your arm, we're gonna get paid handsomely, and we'll cut you in on it, and then we'll just go our own separate ways.
Yeah.
What a what a fucking scam.
The other thing is, like, they acknowledge that monsters aren't real, but they're like talking to him, and he's clearly a monster, and that doesn't seem to faze them at all.
Well, I think they think he's just made up well.
Possibly.
You know.
So he agrees to their terms, and then they return to the village, and the plan is that he's gonna like come and shake some stuff up, and then, they'll chase after him. And so, meanwhile, Unferth is making his rounds, keeping an eye on the guards, and he tells one to stay frosty.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy's like sitting on a bench. And as soon as Unferth leaves, the guard like pulls open this leather scroll, which has got a nude stick figure drawing on it.
Yeah, it's the 6th century equivalent of a centerfold.
It's amazing.
It's just a stick figure with boobs.
I love this guy.
On a deer skin.
Yes.
And he's just like,
oh yeah. So that night, the town is kind of chatting around the fire when Grendel comes in and he's cloaked and he just starts talking with them and then bringing up some pretty good points about, some societal issues that they have in the village, which is hilarious to me because they're all like, like it says, they're drunken revelers. These people are not particularly intelligent.
Right.
Right.
But with no mead.
Right.
Beowulf's people got them all stoned.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is one of those, fully baked quasi-intellectual gatherings of
right.
The freshly inaugurated to being high.
And then he outs himself as Grendel and everyone laughs. And then he promptly slaughters a bunch of people.
Yep.
Beowulf chickens out, shocked that monsters are real.
Yeah, she starts crying.
Yeah. And then Grendel outs her in her scam group. And then he proceeds to tell them that, he might look like a monster, but they're the real monsters because he just wants to love and be loved, I guess.
Yep.
He just wants to be included in their community.
And then he just walks off. And I wrote, mic drop.
Right.
Because it was a pretty bam. And it was silence after that. And as he's leaving, the guard that he passed coming in is still staring at that stick figure with boobs.
Yep.
Oh, man. Later, the princess and Unferth are digging another mass grave.
Yep.
I kind of thought at this point, one more of these Grendel visits and they won't be digging shit.
Right?
Because there's not going to be enough people left to dig. I mean,
There's
they
like
got,
24 people in this village.
yeah,
I
they got to be
mean,
going down hard. So he digs into the princess for calling him a coward, and then bringing back a charlatan hero. Later, he digs up some buried mead and drinks it because trying to destroy it was way too hard. So he buried all these mead kegs all over the fucking place.
well, I think Unferth has become rather disillusioned on the merits of staying sober and on top of shit.
Well, I mean, I get he was trying to, if I wasn't such a drunk, maybe I could have found the courage or something. But yeah, he's just like, what's the point? It's all bullshit. So we fade into nighttime. Beowulf is alone by a fire. Shaper shows up. He's digging for her backstory. He's a writer.
Yeah.
Denied a chance to be a guard because she's a woman. Fought a lot as a kid. Decided to go out and do her own thing. That kind of sums it up, right?
Yeah,
Not a
in
lot
a
of
nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, it's taking, even in like a Viking world, there still weren't a lot of opportunities for women.
Well,
Right? I mean,
yeah.
Fight when you got to fight, and they had shield maidens. But overall, no society has ever fully mastered the fully equal. I mean, even the Celts, right? They understood a lot of things about balance. Women teach boys, men teach girls, and, get the opposite sides working together and, for perspectives and stuff. But I get it, bullied and stuff. And they end up talking about something that Grendel said about dragons being real in his big thing in there.
Yes.
Beowulf says, if they are real, they could destroy the human race. And of course, Shaper, ever the pragmatist, says the human race will end up destroying itself.
Yes.
And then the queen is having yet another meeting, going on about how things could be worse. But she has a plan. Then she has Beowulf come in. Beowulf says she should give Grendel exactly what he wants. And the queen agrees. And everyone's like, Rah. Don't worry, I have a plan. So outside, the princess is pissed at Beowulf.
Yes.
Not the least of reasons being that, quote, the girl she likes is a liar. So there it is, it's out. All the flirting and everything is paid off. Boom. Beowulf is stunned, but says she'll give her last breath to make it up to the princess.
So then Beowulf goes to talk to Grendel in the woods. She tells him that Herod wants peace so badly that they're offering to throw him a party, and it's going to be Grendel Day. So Grendel goes to his lair to talk to his dragon friend about it. And his dragon friend is in a well of some kind.
Yeah.
So Grendel's a little worried that the party is a trap, And his mom kind of walks up while he's talking to the dragon. And she listens and then leaves so that he doesn't know that she heard. But Grendel essentially talks himself into going to the party.
Right.
Meanwhile, Unferth is having a dream about killing Grendel and marrying Freya.
Yeah.
And then he cries about it with his barrel of mead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wakes up from the dream and starts
Right.
sobbing into his beer, crying at his beer. I loved it.
And then we see Grendel primping for the party.
I love that. That whole bit.
Yeah, he wants to look nice.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's, not savage. No. He's a monster. There's a difference.
Yeah. And his mom joins in, but he doesn't tell her about the party. She's kind of like digging for it, but he doesn't tell her. She ends up telling him to have fun and be safe. And it's kind of sweet. She's like, who we are isn't our fault. All we can be is honest about what we want and need. And then she says, if anyone hurts him, she's going to wreck the whole world. Really sweet mom stuff, actually. So he goes to the village where everyone is hiding in the longhouse, and then they come out cheering when he arrives. And Beowulf shakes his hand, and they start the party, and it's very fun. This whole party scene. I didn't write down a lot of details about it, but there's like a guy painted like Grendel.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're all in.
Oh, yeah.
And they're having a blast. And they're
Oh, yeah.
dancing, mixing it up, and
Yep.
it's all good stuff.
There's some women at the party who are hot for Grendel.
And this got us both.
The one who's like, I can fix him.
I know. It was like, oh, I don't care for monsters. And the other one was
She's like, he's kind of hot though.
He's kind of hot though. It's kind of working for me. And then the third one's like, I could fix him. And we just about died.
Yes. And then Unferth stumbles up and he attacks Grendel and takes his arm.
Yep.
Cuts off. Swing. And it's gone. And then Grendel is pretty pissed, understandably. He beheads someone, starts screaming, and then Grendel walks away screaming. And the villagers are upset, understandably. And then Grendel has apparently bled out from his missing arm. So he's lying dead.
Well, yeah, but I mean, before that, he was screaming, why?
Yes.
And then all through the woods, why? You know, till he was done.
And Mom sees him. Mom finds his body. And then we're back with Unferth in the village. And I'm not sure if Unferth quite understands what it was that he did, but everyone's pretty pissed at him.
Yeah, well, it should have been somewhat clear because Beowulf walks up and like takes his sword, like you take
like a firework away from a child.
Yeah, or even taking away something away from a child that it's not supposed to have.
Yes,
and you're pretty cross about it. But she's like, he just gives him that look, like you. So now, Mom is on the run.
Oh yeah.
We find we see Grendel. He's half buried, got flowers all over him. Mom screams. The villagers hear it, echoing through the woods, and panic, and rightly so. So Mom shows up, ready to tear shit apart.
Yes.
And Beowulf challenges her.
Can I say, before Beowulf challenges her, Beowulf apologizes at her as the mom starts yelling, and this is Beowulf's apology. We're dumb and we're drunk and we startle easily.
Yeah, we're dumb, we're drunk, and we startle easily. And that's why your son's arm was cut off. See, you don't get that when you do period speech.
No.
This was just wonderful. Let's see. So after the challenge, we see a little bit later Beowulf stumbling into the hall. Mom is dead.
Yes.
Years later, Queen has passed. Beowulf is made queen. Shaper is writing down her pontifications.
Right.
She talks about monsters and dragons. And then we see smoke in the forest. And then there are people screaming, "It's the dragon." Beowulf goes out to challenge it. Princess doesn't want her to go. But Beowulf and her crew head into the woods, with Shaper in tow, of course.
Well, yeah, he's got to see so he can tell the story.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty intense. And then we've... this is kind of weird. There are all these cut scenes of the dragon.
Yes.
Right? So what do we talk about, folks? Do you have a dragon in your story? You don't have the money to build a giant dragon.
No.
Right, for practical effects. You sure don't have the money to render a really good CGI dragon in a forest environment. That's a lot of masking and editing, and holy shit, that's money. So it's one of those where it's like shots of the arm, the head, the eye, there's different things. Yeah, and it could be any size. You don't know. But then all of a sudden, it starts to get cheap looking.
Yeah.
right? I mean, because you're like, oh, scales and stuff and this and that. And then all of a sudden, um, that's like crepe paper. Uh,
Right.
what the fuck is going on here? And it does that deliberately to the point where you're like, oh my God, this is, it's like a cardboard box dragon head with shit hanging off of it. Why would they do this? To me, it was taking when you run out there all charged up and you see the dragon,
Yeah.
right? You're panicked. You're going to see the terrible dragon. But
Right.
then all of a sudden, because they charge it
Hmm.
when they see it, but then they get close and it's actually just a bunch of dudes playing a dragon. And their dragon outfit is what we see towards the end of those cuts.
Right.
It's just awful. I mean, not at all believable. And this one guy says, yeah, so now what? I mean, normally people flee. We didn't actually have a plan for someone actually running at the dragon. And that's it. That's it. Um,
Well, we do see the elder shaper kind of finishing his story that he's been
oh,
telling
yeah.
as he's laughing. And the young guy is like, what the fuck?
I loved that it ended with a bunch of bullshit artists,
Oh, yeah.
right? Um, because we know the dragons are real. It just, I like that bringing it back full circle,
I like that too.
you know, because we do learn at one point there are no imps.
Right.
Grendel is a real monster. Imps, he says, are bullshit. I've never seen a fucking imp in my life. And I've seen a lot of monsters, but never an imp. And then at one point it's explained how Beowulf and her group fake the imps.
Right.
It's just some sort of weird like melon thing with black carpet on it or some shit. Anyway, as a severed head. Whole big thing. But it coming around to this was cool. I loved that it ended that way. And I got to admit, I was, why is this getting worse every shot? This dragon, what the hell? That's how I reconciled it. When you're amped up and shit, you see what you want to see.
Oh, yeah.
But and that's what these people are counting on. But I love that, never actually, we don't really have a plan. People running at the dragon. You should
Right.
just turn and go.
Yeah. Their plan
You
is
know.
to, ransack when people flee.
Right. Or higher up as we'll kill the dragon.
Right.
And then they have some sort of, pumpkin carved dragon head or some shit they'll use as proof. That, folks, is Bae Wolf. I dug it.
I liked it.
It was so much fun. The one thing that does happen at the end is a lot of supers, which make watching this whole thing worth it.
Oh, yeah.
It's really just it's the crew, everybody, the director, this was shot in like just a few weeks, and where it was shot, and there was laughter, there was tears, there was people were fired, people quit,
There were spiders.
there were spiders,
Because it was a pandemic production.
yes, I mean it's a very recently done.
Yeah.
I love that they put that in there. I think not every movie, but I think there are quite a few movies that we've seen that would have benefited from just, now the movie's over. Let me just say something to you as the director. What a fucking nightmare this was to make, but I'm glad we did it.
Yeah.
We got it done. So, hat tip for that too. It just tickled me. I just loved it. And you earn respect.
Oh, yeah.
It helps people realize. I mean, we realize how hard all this shit is on a good day.
Yes.
There's a couple weeks.
You watch it through that lens,
Yeah. And we've talked about, God damn, how in a pandemic did you get this done? Crazy shit. Okay. let's talk about this movie.
Sure.
Um, Mentioned during all of this, a few things that were uh, huge winners.
Yeah.
And before we get into that, I'll say there's not anything that is a sore point in this. Um,
No.
it was exactly what it was meant to be, and everything was well done. And it just was good. So I just
Yes.
want to say we're because let's talk about the high points, and then usually there's the negative points.
Right.
Don't have any negative points.
No.
No. So it's all high points, folks. The whole thing of making Beowulf a woman. This was the perfect way of doing it. Um,
I liked that conceit. I liked that a lot.
and it's not a full retell or reimagining in the sense that we've seen some things like let's take Romeo and Juliet. How
Okay.
many different movies have they tried to make of that fucking story in modern times, between gangs, between rich houses, right?
Right. Well, it's the star-crossed lovers story, you know. Many stories, if you think about it and you look at all the stories that are told, there are a high number, like I would say probably like 60 to 70% of films and stories out there are maybe not based upon, the core tropes set
Oh,
by the
right.
bard,
Yeah.
but you know,
Well, I'm talking about the actual play
right.
where they've did it between street gangs and they're saying the lines from the play,
Sure.
right? I I hate Romeo and Juliet, the original. That's my absolute least favorite Shakespeare.
Agree.
I just can't stand it for a number of reasons. Um, I went to go see it at American Players Theater. They were all magnificent. Shakespearean actors are fucking phenomenal, no matter which one they're doing. And I enjoyed that, but I still hate Romeo and Juliet.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It's not the best story.
No. Um, but we've also seen a lot of other things where they've made modern,
Yes.
and I just don't care for it. So that was my chief worry, that we're going to get like this modern thing. And I was thinking in my head, how's this going to work? But, I'm going to go into this, see what it is. But it was delightful. And what made it work is the dialogue.
Oh, yeah. The style in which this story was told was, well, I mean, you have the high points of the story of Beowulf, right?
Yep.
But it was told in a way that was it was very accessible.
Yeah. Were no dots. There were no,
Right.
there was no terminology used. It was just plain everyday people talking
Hmm.
kind of speech. And it worked phenomenally well. It
Yes.
it just made everything funnier. It made the conversations a little more meaningful, because there were some meaningful conversations. I mean, it
There
wasn't.
were.
Yeah, this wasn't just like some lampoon beginning to end, right?
No.
Yeah, some of the dialogue was really well thought, and the exchanges were appropriate,
Hmm.
and it was really good. But yeah, the fun stuff was even better.
Oh, yeah.
Shitting me. um,
My favorite line was, "We're dumb and we're drunk and we startle easily. Sorry."
Take it or leave it. Um, the what what I liked also was the amount of detail they put into this. I mean, the costuming wasn't 100%. It
Well,
wasn't like Hollywood production, period. But
it was like LARPing costuming.
well, yeah, but but even like LARPing, because we talk about LARPing. We've seen people who just like take a little tie cape cloak and put
Right.
it on, and there they go in their jeans and tank top. No, um, it was very well thought out on how to costume these people, and just yeah, I visually, it was really a lot of fun. Building these little huts and stuff. I mean, they did put this stuff up.
Well, yeah, they also did film partially at a what I think was like a historical park of some kind or a castle.
Right. And yeah, I liked it. The makeup, Grendel, I mean, that was,
Yeah,
that was a lot to do. And they did it well.
did too.
They did do it well. The heads were cool. The
Oh,
separate heads. I just, that opening scene with him just strolling up in his fur underwear and just ripping shit apart, in the far background. That kind of stuff always tickles me. I don't know why.
I know.
I just love the shit in the background while the foreground is just as uninteresting as can be, you know? It's like Local Hero, where they're having the big conversation on the beach and all the people are snaking out of the church.
Trying to escape the
and,
church.
Yeah, and they're keeping Peter Riegert facing away from them. Yeah. And his companion's just kind of like, he's eyeballing him. He doesn't know what to do. Do I say something? Oh man. Good old Pete Capaldi. Baby Pete. So yeah, technically speaking, no dark spots, no overblown spots. The sound was good. A lot of modern music in there, which was good,
Well, it fit with it.
It fit with it, yeah. And we've talked about a lot of indie films will have a lot of music that is clearly from like local people or people that or sometimes we even know directors are in the band.
Right.
Like, well, we'll just do the music, Anything you can do to save a dime.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's what it's about.
I mean, I would say this was a very smart production.
Yes.
For 37,000, a period piece.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And a little spoiler, we will be having Jeff on at some point.
Jeff.
Did I say Jeff?
Who's
David.
God, oh, okay. David Axe.
I'm looking at my notes again here.
Oh, was Jeff one of the Danes?
Yeah. You don't want to end up like Jeff, do you? Sorry. Dave, excuse me, David, he said it was a silly little thing.
Right.
And while he was doing something else, the app kind of popped into his head. And it is a silly little thing. And that's what makes it way more fun.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't want to minimize it by saying, it's a silly little thing, but it's a fun film.
Well, yeah, by silly little thing, meaning it's this little lampooned version of whatever, and they're kind of poking fun at and just having a good time with, right? But the production is not a silly little thing.
No.
I mean, this was a serious, well done, production. Nothing was left. The thing I look for, edits, continuity.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to use an example from today. So earlier today, you were watching Shutter Island in the background.
Yes.
Okay. The one thing that was driving me nuts is when Leonardo DiCaprio was down in the cells talking to that guy. When the guy's talking, his hand is on his head.
Mm-hmm.
And when they show Leo talking, the guy's hand is on the bars.
Oh, yeah.
They cut to him again. His hand is on his head. Hand is on the bars. That bugs the shit out of me. How no one can notice that big of a detail. If the guy is doing his whole scene with his hand on his head, and then now you're going to redo, you're going to reshoot so that you get all of Leo's close-ups. Fucking pay attention to what was happening in the scene that you just shot.
Well, yeah.
Or vice versa. Whichever. Well, to me, in that level of production, unforgivable. Because it was like 5 solid minutes.
I mean, that's like having a boom come into the shot.
Exactly. Anyway, the edits in here were really good. I didn't catch any, glaring like, they're, because we've seen where like they'll shoot one guy and you can tell he's like in this postmodern like living room where they shot his scene.
Sure.
And then they'll do the reverse angle shot, and it's like, oh well, we couldn't do it in the same place, so we'll just do it over here, and it's like fucking Cracker Barrel. You know. um it was just really really good. It was a pleasure to watch, and I think it speaks a lot to when you want to make something silly, lean into it
Oh yeah.
and just go with it, you know. um Now that can work the other way. It can go poorly.
Yeah, I mean there is when you're doing something that's campy, there's a fine line that you want to walk.
There is, and they walked it on this one and stayed to the side of truth, I'll say.
Mhm.
I'm thinking of a couple that we've seen that we didn't watch all the way through. There was a couple of movies in the last few months that we like fired up and we just couldn't do it because it was one where it was supposed to look like it would be silly, and all it is puerile 10-year
Right.
old humor, right? And overplayed, just things that are so bad. Like in the first 5 minutes of each of these, it was just nonstop. We're like, fuck this. You know, life's too short. And I know somebody appreciates that kind of humor. I don't. I like stupid humor. I like stuff, but not every 5 seconds, you know. And it reminded me of that show we watched where they had the one guy wrote the script and then they gave that script to two directors.
Oh, right, the chair.
Yeah. With Zachary Quinto
Yeah.
as one of the judges. And each of the directors tore it apart and redid it. And the guy was just like, neither one of them are any fucking good. This isn't what I wrote. Why can't you just shoot my fucking script? You know? Um, but then the one guy who was this YouTuber was so puerile that Zachary
Yeah.
Quinto said, I'm not, I'm done. I'm out. You're
Right.
not putting my name on this. This is, you should be embarrassed. I mean, he really laid into this guy.
Yeah, he did.
And I was like, for real, man. You, absolutely.
And Zachary Quinto was absolutely right.
Oh, yeah, because it was just so gross.
Yeah.
So bad. Anyway, I always compare in the back of my head shit to that. You know, this didn't have puerile humor. Nobody was eating their own shit. Nobody was vomiting in each other's mouths. You know, nobody was dry humping everyone and everything. You
Right.
know, this was all actually pretty smart, like just straight line humor.
Yeah, I mean,
Just can't
you
be
know,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah. You don't need to go too far in any direction to have fun. Uh, and I think what made it more fun, it was Beowulf.
Right.
You know, I don't know that anybody's really tackled it in a, well, let's just have some fun with this shit. You know, it's always a serious thing.
Well,
You know?
I liked the little twist of Beowulf being a con artist
Yes, that
instead
was
of a
also fun.
hero, right? And I thought that that worked really well, especially in the world that they like created for this film
Mm-hmm.
of kind of the silliness and the not taking everything so seriously. Um, I initially was like, hold on, Beowulf's a hero though, and then I was like, no, I actually like it this way.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
Well, here's how I saw it. One thing I don't like about films that do different takes on things are when it's actual history.
Sure.
Right? I hate that. I hate that because we know what happened for the most part in a lot of history. But Beowulf is a tale, right?
Yes.
And I love when someone gets creative with a tale. And it's perfectly believable that Beowulf was a woman and was converted to be a man in all the stories because, you know, that's what they do. And maybe Beowulf was full of shit, but it all comes down to the teller of the tale,
Well, that was,
right?
the shaper, and I love that term for a storyteller
Yes, I thought that was really
because that
point.
is what they do. They shape the world that, you know, that is remembered.
Mm-hmm. Well, and a lot of times, you know, history is written by the victor
Right.
or the one in charge. That's, you know, Ali Ski.
Yeah.
Real life thing happened, written out of history. Um, But yeah, they do. They shape what happened
Yeah.
to their own perspective and to their own favor,
Hmm.
right? So if he was against her, like say she was just a real bitch to him, this would have been a fully different story,
Well, I love the
right?
conversation they have in the woods, which is, I mean, it's funny, but it's also kind of a serious. Oh, I hit it. Hit the mic.
It's been a while.
It's also kind of a serious conversation where they have, where he's like, I could tell this really cool story about you, or I could tell the story about how you're a cowardly fraud. It's really up to you, right?
Right.
And how this conversation goes.
And it made sense,
Yeah.
you know. That's what I mean. If she had just like dismissed him, then it would have been a fully different story.
Well, yeah.
You know? So yeah, if someone wants to know your details and they're writing about it, work with them.
Yeah.
They're going to be part of the annals of history. Get it out. Get the real info out.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know how many more things to laud about. Because like I said, technically it was great. The pacing was great. It was fun. I mean, there wasn't a moment where you were ever like, what in the hell's going on?
Right.
It, like I said, the editing was good, which editing is responsible for pacing. Because we all know, you know, directors can to make a scene go 5 minutes in the editing room. The editor would be like, "Well, this sucks. There's nothing happening. How about this?" You know, um, and it's an interesting thing too. With indie films, as the director, you have full control, right? Um, even David, even when he sends his shit out and people fuck it up, he has control. He can fix it,
Right.
right? Now it's getting a little muddier because he's getting into deals with bigger funders,
Yeah.
and they have
Just
a
to be
little
clear,
more.
David Ryan Keith
Yeah,
is the
David
name
Ryan Keith.
because this movie is also directed by
Oh
someone called
yeah,
David.
David X. So David Ryan Keith is running into that. They want more control, but you know what are you going to do? But at this level, when you have full control, you have final cut. In big movies, the director rarely has final cut. You have to be top notch, top paid, A-list director with a string of successes and like hot public attention to get that kind of control in your contract. But a lot of directors are out there on record saying that's not the fucking movie I shot.
Yes.
Right? You know, they're sometimes directors will for the first time see the official screening of what someone else did with their movie. So it's just like us as writers. We can hand over a script.
And we don't know what's going to come out the other side.
Right. And David Ryan Keith handed over a script and someone else is writing it. So he's not sure what that means. How
Yeah.
much of it is actually going to stay his. But with that, David Axe knows what's going on. So he was the guy, right?
Yeah.
He's one of those, you know, I'm everything that's sitting at a desk besides directing. And then, you know, you've got people running cameras and stuff, and, you know, but he did all the work and he did well. And that's a hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say that because I have no desire to be a filmmaker. I want to write and work with people to make a film, but God, this just isn't, I couldn't. I wouldn't want to be a director. I wouldn't want to sit and edit a feature length film
No.
and do all the, Jesus Christ. No, that's not my bag. That's why I have full respect for everyone who does, you know? Yeah. So smooth editing, smooth story, fun, um, makes you think a little bit about the actual tale, you know, as you're going through it. And, oh, I wonder.
Well, yeah. And that was, I mean, going back to we're talking about women in film this year,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this movie is carried pretty much by Morgan Shelley Renew and Jennifer Hill as Freya and Beowulf.
They are absolutely the stars.
Yes.
Yes.
And I just loved how Beowulf as a woman is not any different than Beowulf as a man. right?
Right.
I mean, you could tell the same story. Beowulf could still be a charlatan, right? Um, but there was just something very fascinating and interesting about the story being told this way with a woman as the epic hero
Hmm.
in the center of the story.
Yeah. Usually that's reserved for a lot of Greek mythology where
Mm-hmm.
it's a goddess or,
Right, Athena or Artemis or
yeah, one of the royalty
yeah.
of story time. You don't get a lot of just, a woman decided one day enough is enough, picked up a sword and went out and did shit.
Yeah.
Got it done. You don't get a lot of that.
No.
I also like the fact, uh, or how they, rather not the fact, but how they represented Beowulf and the princess, her and Freya, because a lot of times, I don't know how to say it, they overdo the sexuality.
Sure.
If it's anything other than heterosexual, right?
Oh yeah, it's like cheesed. It's
It's
cheesed
they
badly.
they cheese it or they go stereotype or anything. This was one of the few movies that I can put on my list where that was addressed with like normal conversation between
Right.
actual normal people. Right? This is how it would go. You know, there's not a special way people do things, and that bugs me so much. Two men act romantically towards one another from interest to relationship, as do two women, as do a man and a woman, as do whatever descriptions you want to use. It all works the same,
Yeah.
you know? And so many, even big films, are just blowing shit out of proportion. Almost like this, I want you to see that we're doing this. And that's what makes me shudder because that's what makes it fake, artificial, gimmicky. You just did this to bring in LGBTQ crowd,
Yeah. I mean,
right?
I don't love it when it feels forced, and I haven't seen a whole lot where it
Right.
doesn't feel
And,
forced.
but I like, everyone was normal. There was not macho bull type. There was not ultra effeminate type. And there wasn't the reverse for the genders,
Mm-hmm.
right? We've seen movies where, it's like, oh my God, that just so didn't fit, you know. But the reality is people act how they act in terms of who they are. And, if you've ever been to a pride parade in San Francisco, they let it all out. And that is who they are, and it's beautiful, right? But too many people confuse that as a gay person, male or female, is going to act that way all the time. Every one of them, right? And I don't know, it was just, I wish there was some sort of like Oscar for anything ever made, even if it's like a 5-minute iPhone video where people portray just life as real life. And I
Yeah.
think that is as much fun and everything. I think that's the single largest accomplishment this movie did was it's just because between the two of them, they're just talking. There's a little bit of flirting, there's a little bit of meaningful conversation.
Well, yeah, I don't even really like in heterosexual movies when it's cheesy romantic. Like, I don't tend to gravitate to rom coms. I think a couple weeks ago I had a little bit of a rom com stint just because they were like brainless and you know.
You did. You burned through some.
Well, yeah, it was like the holidays.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Just like brainless, dumb. I don't know. I don't have to pay attention to them.
I like some of them, and it's really not because they're a rom com. It's just the movie itself
Sure.
is good. Um, but I know what you mean. I mean, well, that's the thing about a rom com though. Everything has to be. It's comedy. Everything has to be taken to
Yeah.
the nth level. I, in a rom com, I think the romance could be left normal, and the situations not in that romantic moment could be taken to the nth level. You know,
Yeah.
but we've all seen, like, go back to television, Three's Company. Three's Company survived on the well-established foundation of television sitcoms of sexual innuendo, misheard, overheard conversations, right? You hear like someone,
Mm-hmm.
this person hears the last 10 words of this conversation, they blow it up, and that's the whole thing for the episode, you know, misinformation, misunderstanding. I didn't care much for Three's Company when it was on. I'll say that.
I didn't watch.
I
I
know
mean, I saw maybe one or two episodes on like Nick at Night, but
it was just too much every episode. I mean, that's what it was every episode. You know, it wasn't, you know, let's take like Seinfeld. Seinfeld ran for so long because they kind of shit on all the conventions and just, it was literally a show about nothing. And the nothingness of daily life can be funny as hell.
this is true.
But that's what made it a success. Now they did, you know, overdo a few. I mean, it's a sitcom, but anyway, comedy is where that belongs. I don't think relationships. That's where it belongs. I I don't think care needs to be taken in representing two people coming together, regardless of their sex or sexuality or identity. I think it happens pretty much the same way.
Well,
There's a
yeah,
look, there's an attraction, there's sometimes it's instant, sometimes it's after you spend time with someone and talk to them and, you know, things kind of slip in. That's all there is to it. You don't need to add, you know. Let's live normal lives as normal people. We are who we are. Everyone is who they are. And nobody pulls a Charlie Chaplin every time they're with someone,
right.
you know. So anyway, those are the things I thought were fantastic. And I just got the flag from my cohort here.
Yes.
We got to wrap things up. So, folks, see this movie. We will have David Axe on the show. And I got to set a time and a date, but he's all for it. We're going to talk about this.
I'm excited.
And hopefully we'll get some cast or crew. I said, anybody else who wants to jump in on this,
Oh, yeah.
you know, feel free. You know, when I get it locked in, send out the invite because we want to talk to all these people if we can. Yeah, watch this and have fun with it, and just, you know, use this as inspiration for your writing, your direction, and everything. You know, being silly and kind of a carefree kind of production. The camera placement was still where it needed to be. The direction was the way it needed to be. There are the things you can do to have so much fun, but
Mhm.
also, you know, never let us forget, you know what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, this Bad Boy is showing up on Tubi, and if there's any other info, I'll put it in the show notes once I talk to him a little more.
Yeah, I mean, go check it out if you like the legend of Beowulf, right?
Yeah, especially.
This is a super fun one.
And we're going to get the backstory on exactly how this formed and why they decided to do it under like the worst circumstances ever, you know, COVID.
Right.
But until then, folks, you can check out all of our stuff at our website, www.lordsofmissworldproductions.com.
It's all there.
It's all there.
All the stuff.
Yep. Still doing the bi-weekly thing.
Yeah.
This is the first of the bi-weekly. Is the episode that dropped today, because we're recording a day late also,
because yeah.
You were not top form yesterday.
I got bones ripped out of my jaw.
I know.
So yeah, and we'll be doing that until March.
Yeah, well, it'll probably be April because we're still recording 2 weeks ahead. So
Right.
it'll probably be April before we get back to a weekly thing. Lots of studying.
Mm-hmm.
Just a bunch more today. New classes start tomorrow. So
Jim's working very hard.
Oh man. So you know, yeah, that's just the way it is. Nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, check out our stuff. Check out all of our people following us. People we're following. A couple more, you know, every week pile on.
Mm-hmm.
These are your crowd, your crew, people. Check them out. Let's support one another. If you're not doing anything filmmaking and you're listening and you've got a podcast, well, help everybody out. Mention some movies, mention some directors,
Yeah.
Some actors and writers and stuff. Let's all do this together.
Yes.
All right. All right, folks.
Until next time.
This is Jim.
And this is Danny.
And we will talk to you soon.
Bye.